Hey travelers, welcome back to Travel Vibes, your go-to channel for smart travel tips and hacks. If you love exploring new places but hate the stress of airport security, today's video is for you. TSA's new ID rules are changing in 2025, and if you're not prepared, you could be turned away at the gate. Imagine being at the airport, ticket in hand, only to find out your ID isn't valid. No ID, no flight. Sounds like a nightmare, right? But don't worry, I've got you covered. In this video, we'll break down exactly what to do if you lose your ID or passport before a flight, plus proven travel hacks to keep your documents safe. Whether you're a first-time flyer, the digital nomad, or just someone who loves spontaneous trips, these tips will save you time, stress, and money. So if you want smoother airport experiences and hassle-free travel, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Now, let's dive in. What if you lose your ID at the airport? Imagine this. You're walking through the airport, excited for your trip, juggling your coffee, your boarding pass, and your carry-on. Maybe you're a college student heading home for the holidays, a young professional traveling for work, or someone finally taking that long-awaited vacation. You reach into your pocket for your ID, only to find that it's gone. You check again. Your heart starts racing. Did you drop it? Was it stolen? Did you leave it back at security? For most travelers, this is a moment of pure panic. Your ID is supposed to be your golden ticket through airport security. Without it, you might think your trip is over before it even begins. But here's the good news. You can still fly, even without your driver's license or passport. TSA has a backup plan in place, and if you know what to do, you won't have to cancel your flight. Starting May 7th, 2025, TSA will be enforcing Real ID compliance, meaning that not just any driver's license will work. You'll need one with a black or gold star or an enhanced marking. But even if you don't have that, or worse, you've lost your ID entirely, there's still hope. For one, if you have your passport, you're in the clear, even if you're flying domestically. It's something many travelers don't think about, but a passport works just as well, if not better, as a form of identification at TSA checkpoints. So if you're someone who misplaces things easily, keeping your passport as a backup might just save you from a travel disaster. But let's say your passport is also out of reach. You're standing there, empty-handed, wondering what to do next. This is where TSA's identity verification process comes in. If you don't have any physical ID on you, TSA officers can still confirm who you are by asking a series of personal questions. Things only you would know. They might also look for something else with your name on it, like a prescription bottle, a digital copy of your ID, or even a work badge. It's not instant, and it might take longer, but in most cases, you'll still be able to fly. So no, losing your ID doesn't automatically mean missing your flight. But let's be honest, no one wants to go through that kind of stress, especially when you're already dealing with airport lines, last-minute packing, and flight delays. So the real question is, how do you avoid this situation in the first place? Let's talk about that next. How to protect your passport and ID from getting lost or stolen. Losing your ID while traveling is frustrating. But having it stolen? That's a whole new level of disaster. Suddenly, it's not just about missing your flight, it's about someone else having access to your personal information. And if you think it won't happen to you, think again. Airports, train stations, and busy tourist hotspots are prime hunting grounds for pickpockets, and travelers make easy targets. The good news? There are simple, effective ways to keep your passport and ID safe, so you never have to experience that sinking feeling of realizing they're gone. 1. Stop carrying your ID in your phone case. One of the worst travel mistakes I've seen time and time again is travelers storing their ID or credit cards inside their phone case. Sounds convenient, right? Everything in one place. Easy to grab when needed. But here's the problem. Thieves know this trick too. And in crowded airports or busy streets, a single distraction is all it takes for your phone and your ID to disappear. I once helped a traveler who learned this lesson the hard way. She was in New Orleans for a weekend trip, casually strolling through a packed street, when, in an instant, her phone was snatched right from her hand. What she didn't realize at first was that her ID and credit cards were tucked inside the case. In one quick move, the thief had everything: her phone, her wallet, and her identity. Getting a new phone is one thing, but trying to board a flight home without an ID? That's a whole different nightmare. So here's the smarter way to do it. Never keep your ID in your phone case. Instead, use a crossbody bag with slash-resistant straps, a simple but effective way to keep your belongings secure. These bags are designed to make it harder for thieves to cut or grab them in crowded areas. Keep your ID tucked safely inside, not in an outside pocket where it's easily accessible. And if you're someone who loves minimal packing and hates carrying extra bags, I get it. But there are better alternatives. A money belt, a hidden passport pouch, or even a small RFID blocking wallet that stays close to your body are all much safer options. Because let's be honest, no trip should be ruined by something as simple as poor ID storage. But that's just the beginning. There are even more ways to protect your most important travel documents. And up next, we'll talk about a powerful strategy that can keep your ID safe, even if the worst happens. 2. The Decoy wallet trick. Now let's talk about a simple but incredibly smart way to outthink pickpockets before they outthink you. The Decoy wallet trick. If you're traveling to a big city, a crowded tourist spot, or even a country known for petty theft, this could be the one travel hack that saves your trip. Here's how it works. Instead of carrying all your important cards and cash in one place, you carry a fake wallet, an old one that looks real but only has expired credit cards and a few small bills inside. Why? Because if the worst happens and someone demands your wallet, you have something to give them. You toss it in one direction and run the other way. Think about it. Thieves aren't looking to stop and check if what they grabbed is real. The moment they get their hands on something that looks valuable, their goal is to get away as fast as possible. Meanwhile, your actual ID, credit cards, and travel money stay safe and hidden where no one would think to look. And that brings us to the second part of this trick, where you should actually keep your real valuables. The smartest travelers know never to put all their money and ID in one place. Instead, spread things out. Keep one card tucked away in a safe spot inside your bag, another hidden in a sock with a built-in pocket, or even inside a small money belt worn under your clothes. That way, even if something gets stolen, you're not stranded with nothing. Now, some of you might be thinking, that sounds a little extreme. Do I really need to do all that? And the answer depends on where you're going. If you're heading to a low-risk destination, you might never need this trick. But if you're traveling somewhere new, where you don't know the layout, the people, or the common scams, taking these extra precautions can mean the difference between a minor inconvenience and a total travel disaster. But let's take it a step further. Because even with all the precautions in the world, things can still go wrong. So, what happens if you do lose your ID or passport? Up next, we're going to cover an often overlooked travel hack that can make recovering from that situation 10 times easier. 3. What to do if your ID gets stolen while traveling. Losing your ID while traveling is stressful enough, but when it's stolen, it takes the panic to a whole new level. One minute, you're enjoying your trip. The next, you're standing there realizing that someone else now has your name, your address, and possibly access to your personal accounts. It's the kind of situation no traveler ever wants to deal with, but unfortunately, it happens more often than you'd think, especially in busy airports, train stations, and popular tourist destinations. The first thing to remember? Don't panic. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's inconvenient. But TSA has a backup plan, and if you act quickly, you can still make your flight. The moment you realize your ID is missing, the first thing you should do is contact TSA immediately. The fastest way? Their official Facebook Messenger chat or their customer service hotline. TSA agents are used to handling situations like this, and they'll guide you through the next steps. Once you arrive at the airport, expect to go through an identity verification process. TSA officers will ask you a series of personal identification questions, things only you would know. These could be details about your past addresses, loan history, or even something as simple as where you got your last driver's license renewed. The key here is to answer confidently and provide as much accurate information as possible. If you have any alternative documents with you, now is the time to use them. A prescription bottle with your name on it, a digital copy of your driver's license, or even an old utility bill can help confirm your identity. Even something small like a work ID or a student ID might be enough to prove who you are. It might take a little extra time at security, but as long as TSA can verify your identity, you'll still be allowed to fly. But here's the thing, no one wants to be in this situation in the first place. So in the next part, I'm going to share a powerful yet simple strategy that can make recovering from lost or stolen IDs 10 times easier and save you a massive headache. Digital backups, the game changer you need. Now, let's talk about a simple yet incredibly powerful travel hack that can save you from a massive headache if your ID or passport ever goes missing. If there's one thing every traveler should do before heading to the airport, it's creating digital backups of important documents. It's fast, it's easy, and in the worst-case scenario, it can mean the difference between a smooth recovery and being completely stranded. Imagine this, you're traveling abroad, and your passport suddenly disappears. Maybe you misplaced it, maybe someone stole it. Either way, without it, you're stuck. But now imagine you have a digital copy saved securely on your phone. Instead of panicking, you simply pull up the backup, head to the nearest embassy or consulate, and within hours, you're on your way to getting a replacement. That's the power of being prepared. So how do you do this the right way? Not all digital storage methods are safe, and you don't want your personal details easily accessible. The key is to use secure and encrypted storage to keep your information protected. First, take a high-quality photo of your passport and driver's license. Don't just rely on the physical copies. Having a digital version is your backup plan. But here's where most travelers go wrong. They save it in their phone's regular photo gallery. That's a big mistake. If your phone gets stolen, guess what? Now the thief not only has your phone, but also access to your ID. Instead, save your ID in a secure, encrypted notes app. Something like Apple's Notes with a password lock or a dedicated password manager. And here's a smart trick. Rename the file to something inconspicuous. Instead of calling it passport copy, try something like dog food list or grocery notes. That way, even if someone gets into your phone, they won't immediately know what's inside. For extra safety, send a copy to a trusted family member or friend before your trip. That way, even if your phone is lost or stolen, you have another way to access your documents when you need them. And one final tip, if you're carrying your passport with you, consider using an RFID blocking passport holder. Many travelers don't realize that passports contain an RFID chip that can be scanned remotely by tech-savvy thieves. An RFID blocking holder prevents this, adding an extra layer of security. Now that you've got your digital backup set up, let's take it a step further. Because even with all these precautions, passport theft is still a real risk, and knowing how to prevent it in the first place is just as important. Up next, we'll cover some expert-level tips to keep your passport and personal information safe while traveling. Expired passports, the 6-month rule that can ruin your trip. Now, here's a travel mistake that catches way too many people off guard. And it's something that could completely derail your trip before it even starts. Your passport's expiration date. Most travelers assume that as long as their passport is technically still valid, they're good to go. But here's the reality. Many countries won't let you in if your passport expires in less than 6 months. That means even if you have 4 or 5 months left before it expires, you could still be denied boarding at the airport. I once met a traveler who learned this lesson the hard way. He had planned a big family reunion trip, tickets booked, bags packed, excitement through the roof. But when he arrived at the airport, ready to check in, the airline staff took one look at his passport and told him he couldn't board. Why? Because his passport was set to expire in 4 months. Just like that, his trip was over before it even began. No exceptions, no quick fixes. Just a long, frustrating trip back home while his family flew off without him. Now, imagine that happening to you. You've spent months planning, saving, booking flights, hotels, and excursions, only to be turned away at the gate. Avoiding this kind of disaster is simple, but it requires one thing: checking your passport's expiration date well in advance. If you haven't looked at yours in a while, do it today. And don't just wait until you have a trip coming up. Renew it at least 9 months before it expires. That way, you'll never have to stress about cutting it too close. And here's something a lot of people don't realize. Passport renewal processing times can take months, especially during peak travel seasons. So the sooner you take care of it, the better. Now that we've covered the importance of an up-to-date passport, let's talk about one last critical tip: how to protect your identity and personal information while traveling. Because having a passport is one thing, but keeping it safe from scammers and identity thieves, that's a whole other story. Protecting your identity while traveling. Having your passport and ID is one thing. Keeping them safe from scammers and identity thieves, that's an entirely different challenge, one that too many travelers overlook. Your driver's license, passport, and credit cards contain personally identifiable information, PII, that criminals can use to open bank accounts, take out loans in your name, or even commit identity fraud. And the worst part? You might not even realize it's happening until it's too late. Think about it. When you're traveling, you're constantly handing over your ID, using public Wi-Fi, and posting updates online. Every single one of these moments is an opportunity for someone to steal your information. But don't worry, there are a few must-know security tips that can keep you protected no matter where you go. First, invest in RFID blocking technology. Many travelers don't realize that modern passports and credit cards have RFID chips that can be scanned remotely. That means a thief could steal your card details without even touching your wallet. The fix? An RFID blocking passport holder or wallet. These create a protective barrier that stops scanners in their tracks, keeping your personal data safe. Next, always be mindful of how you carry your bag. Pickpockets are fast, skilled, and can grab something off you in seconds, especially in crowded areas. The best way to prevent this? Wear a crossbody bag with lockable zippers and keep it in front of you. Backpacks are convenient, but when they're on your back, you won't feel it if someone reaches in. And those stylish handbags that dangle off your shoulder? They're an open invitation for snatch-and-run thieves. And finally, be careful about what you share online. I get it. When you're traveling, you want to post photos, check in at cool spots, and let your friends know where you are. But here's the risk. If someone knows exactly where you are, they also know where you're not. Posting in real time while abroad can make you an easy target for break-ins back home or even scams while you're away. Instead, wait until you've moved to a different location before sharing. At the end of the day, the goal isn't to be paranoid, it's to be prepared. The more you take small steps to protect yourself, the more confident and stress-free your travels will be. Now that we've covered all the essential TSA rules, security hacks, and ID protection tips, let's wrap things up with a quick recap and a final piece of advice that every traveler should hear before their next trip. Final thoughts: travel smart, stay safe, and keep exploring. Navigating airport security can feel overwhelming, especially with new TSA rules coming in 2025. But here's the truth: a little preparation goes a long way. The difference between a smooth, stress-free trip and a travel disaster often comes down to how well you plan ahead. Losing your ID, dealing with security delays, or falling victim to theft doesn't have to ruin your travels. When you know what to expect and take the right precautions, you can handle anything that comes your way. So let's quickly recap the key takeaways. First, you can still fly even if you lose your ID, as long as TSA can verify your identity. It's not ideal, but knowing this can prevent unnecessary panic if you ever find yourself in that situation. Second, always carry a digital backup of your passport and driver's license. A quick photo stored in a secure, encrypted notes app can be a lifesaver if you ever need to prove your identity or replace lost documents. Third, use anti-theft strategies to protect your valuables. Simple adjustments, like using an RFID blocking wallet, wearing a crossbody bag with lockable zippers, or spreading out your cards in different places, can make you a much harder target for thieves. And finally, check your passport's expiration date well in advance. Don't assume it's valid just because it hasn't hit the expiration date yet. Many countries require at least 6 months of validity to let you in. Renewing early can save you from a last-minute airport nightmare. At the end of the day, the goal isn't just to get through airport security, it's to enjoy the journey. When you travel smart, you can explore the world with confidence, freedom, and peace of mind. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your best travel safety tip? Have you ever lost your ID while traveling? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's share advice to help every traveler out there. And if you found this video helpful, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we've got plenty more travel hacks coming your way. Safe travels, and see you in the next adventure.